Before joining Digital Health Sales Institute, what was your biggest challenge or blind spot when it came to selling into healthcare provider organizations?
Well, the truth is that prior to DHSI, I actually didn't know anything about selling in general, and particularly selling to healthcare providers. And so I would say that I had sort of a gaping hole, not so much just a blind spot, because many times you just think the product will sort of sell itself, and you really don't recognize or understand the importance of having some type of process to sell.
What did digital health sales help you understand about how provider organizations actually make buying decisions?
Well, I think one thing is that what I learned in terms of how provider organizations make buying decisions is, first of all, there are different types of provider organizations, and not all organizations will make the decisions in the same way. And then also the importance of timing. But I think probably the key is to understand that there are different types of buying organizations, and the selling cycle or the sales cycle is different within those organizations. And also one thing that I was sort of aware of but didn't understand the importance of is that when you're selling into healthcare organizations, you really have to close many different people, not one person per se.
During your time with Digital Health Services, is there a specific moment, session, guest speaker, or framework, or something cool?
I think one thing that I had never really thought about or heard is when you're discussing your product and selling, is sort of framing or discussing the cost of inaction to the organization. And I think that can be important because healthcare entities can be sort of stuck in sort of the status quo mode. So I thought really not only everyone's going to have sort of a return on investment, but I think that having a focus on what's the cost of inaction, I think that's a valuable insight, and probably it was certainly not something that I heard before prior to coming to DHSI.
Is there something else that changed how you think about selling?
I think the key part is that in terms of changing my thinking is, again, understanding that there are multiple people that are sort of involved in the buying process, and so I think that's a key kind of component.
How is digital health sales to change the way you prepare for a health system, provider group, or investor conversations?
Well, again, one of the things that it helped me to understand, first of all, was that you actually have to have a sort of a repeatable process that you use, and not sort of just this random sort of conversations and talking. And also the other thing too is that, and what's interesting about the Digital Health Sales Institute that's different than what you see when you go through an accelerator is the accelerators, they talk about these basic discovery sort of questions and processes. And what I learned and what the accelerators don't understand is that when you're trying to sell into health systems, they expect you to come with some baseline knowledge. And if you use the approach that the accelerators speak of or discuss, it's going to actually be harmful, because the buyers and the key decision makers are going to think that you're just not very sophisticated and you can't offer a product that can solve their problems. And so I think, number one, having a process and understanding that a lot of the things many accelerators talk, particularly in terms of customer discovery, those things are presumed to be sort of table stakes when you come to the healthcare ecosystem.
What would you say to another digital health founder who has strong product but is struggling to get traction, move past pilots, or figure out who the real buyer is?
Well, first of all, again, obviously we talked about understanding the customer, and I think one of the fundamental things that Kirk said is, he says basically if you figure out what the problems are the organizations have and you focus on solving the problem, then the sale becomes more likely. You still have to have a process, but if you identify and you solve a problem that's pressing, and you can quantify that problem in terms of either time or treasure, that increases the likelihood of success.
If you had to describe the value of Digital Health Institute in one sentence, what would you say?
I would say that it will increase, DHSI will increase the likelihood that you can sell your product. I mean, and again, because of the process and the structure. And the other thing too is that, I mean, Kirk is very experienced. And so I think that's very helpful. And it's not sort of theoretical. You're not talking to someone who has some theoretical kind of knowledge, someone who's actually been in the trenches.
Scan the QR code or click the link in the bio to join an information session to see if you are a fit for the world's first Digital Health Sales Institute.